Hey guys, hope everyone is doing well on this Tuesday. Had an exciting day here at my house. We were outside for most of the rainy day, but we got a lot of stuff in, and I'm ready to share with you Unit 9, Lesson 2, all right? And the cool thing is I have our reading book with me today so that I can read right from the book instead of the cards. So let's check out what our objectives are for today for Unit 9, Lesson 8. Number 1, you guys are going to get 2 new tricky words to identify. I will share those with you in a second. And then when we get to our story, we're gonna actually really jump into the story a lot today and do a lot of work with it. And we are going to look for topics such as who are the characters, where is the setting, and events in the story. And events are things that are going on in the story to kind of push it along. So we'll talk about that when we read our story in a few minutes. And then on the bottom here, very important, answering, like they say, W questions. And those are who, what, where, and when. You should be able to recognize those whenever you read a story. Whether you're reading a story with me or reading a story at home, you should be able to identify those W words. Who, what, where, and when. And then finally on the bottom, retell. And retell is just telling me the story without going back and reading it word for word. You close the book and you tell me what happened in the story. Who was there? What was going on? So I want you to be able to retell our story today to mom or dad or someone at home after we kind of talk about those who, what, where, and when questions, all right? So that is our objectives for today. Not too much, but we're going to really get into it, all right? So first things first is I have 2 brand new tricky words for us to go after. And this one has a W and a long I sound. Whwhy. Why. Why. Yep, that is our tricky word for today. W-H-Y. Why. And it's spelled differently than we decode it. You can't decode this one. It would not make sense. So it is tricky. W-H-Y. W-H-Y. Why. That is our first tricky word of the day. Why. Keep an eye on it. It could appear in our story today. So that's our first one is why. And our next tricky word is the word ooh. When you have those 2 O's together, they can make an ooh sound. That's right. Our word is two. Not the number 2. That's T-W-O. This is two. T-O. T-O-T-O. 2. So that is the word two. So our tricky words for today are two and why. Two and why. Those are our tricky words for today. Like I said, these are going to be coming an awful lot as we go. So those are our tricky words for today, two and why. But I got a job for you, all right? I got a job for you. I got my list right here. And I have a list of our tricky words right here. All right, I'm going to read them to you. I have when, word, to, why, one, from, and was. I'll do it one more time for you. When, word, to, why, one, from, and was. Your job today is to write these words one time. Get a scrap piece of paper or whatever you have at home and write these words down one time for me. Here they are right here. When, word, to, why, one, from, and was. Write those down and practice those. These are the tricky words. Make sure you're writing. You got to keep writing as we're home from school. So make sure you get those done. Take a picture of those if you can and send them to your teacher, or just comment below that you wrote these tricky words. All right? All right. Now, let's get into the story. Let's take a look at the story. All right? And I have our book. Here is our book, Zach and Ann. All right, it's pretty cool. I can actually hold the book up and read it as opposed to the boards earlier. So let's take a look at our story and our objectives before we get into Zach and Ann. All right, the title of our story is The Bad Crab. The Bad Crab. All right, we are going to review parts of the book. We'll do that in a second. That's an objective we're going to do. And we're going to look for uppercase letters. All right, we practiced some uppercase letters yesterday. We are going to look for them in our story. Number 3, understand story vocabulary. I have 3 vocabulary words that are going to show up in our story. I want you to go over those. And then at the end, answer comprehension questions. These are going to be 3 questions that I'd like for you to comment in the comment section below on the bad crab. All right? So those are our story words for today and our objectives for the bad crab. And let's read our story. Here's our book. Before we do this, let's take a look here. This is that's right, cover of the book. This is the back of the book. Here is the spine. Very good. If I do this and circle up here, I am circling the title. Okay? You can notice that there are some capital letters here. There's a capital Z and there's a capital A for Zach and Ann, because those are names and you use capital letters when writing your names. Just like when you guys write your names in class, you start with a capital, all right? So on that title, Zach and Ann, the Z and the A are capital. Remember, author writes the words, illustrator draws the pictures, all right? One last thing to check on, actually 2 last things before we get into the vocabularies with our book is if you open up, you have our table of contents right there. And the table of contents helps us out. It shows us which story we're reading and which page to go to. And down here in the corner, you'll see in a second, is the page numbers, okay? So today's story is The Bad Crab. There it is right there, all right? And then what I do is I go in my table of contents right here, The Bad Crab, I scooch over, and boom, there's a number 2 right there. That tells me to head over to page 2, and that's where my story, The Bad Crab, is going to be. So let's see here. I turn a couple of pages here. I look down, and bang, number 2 right there. I'm going to start The Bad Crab on page number 2, okay? I'm going to put my book aside for a second. Before I start The Bad Crab, I want to go over 3 vocabulary words, all right? Our first vocabulary is the word spot, and that means to see. You spot something in the distance. You spot something in school, all right? Spot means to see. That's why I drew some eyes right there. Look for that word spot in our story today, all right? Our second vocabulary word is the word snap, and that means try to bite in an angry way. Snap. Something is going to snap today in our story. Keep an eye out for what is snapping. If you think about the title, you might be able to figure it out. So try to bite in an angry way. So something is mad and they are trying to snap at someone. And our last is not pretty much a vocabulary. It's similar to a vocabulary word. It's a bunch of words. Pass the word. That means you're going to tell other people to spread the news. So you want to tell people, hey, something's going on over here. You want to let people know in other areas just so that they are ready and nothing bad happens. So you want to pass the word. You want to tell them something is going on. All right? So spot, snap, and pass the word are our vocabulary words. Let's get into the story. Remember, today's story is The Bad Crab. There's that illustration right now. Where do you think Zach might be right now? Think about that. Think about that when we talk about setting. All right? Where do you think Zach is? Here's our title, The Bad Crab. This is Zach Chang. Zach is 6. This boy right here, that's Zach Chang. He's 6 years old. A lot of you guys are probably 6 years old right now. So there's Zach right there. He's 6 years old. The title is The Bad Crab. Let's see what happens next. This is Ann Chang. Ann is 10. There's Ann Chang right there. She's 10 years old. So Zach is 6 and Ann is 10. Look what she's got there. Look what she's got in her hands. Look by her feet. Look where she's standing. Where do you think Zach and Ann are? Where could they be? Oh boy, here we go. Let's see. Zach and Ann sit in the sun. Mom and Dad sit with them. There's Mom and Dad sitting with them. Uh-oh. What's crawling up the beach here? Let's see here. Zach spots a crab on the sand. He spotted it. He saw it with his eyes. The crab runs up. Then it snaps at Zach's leg. Must have taken its claw and snapped at Zach's leg. Zach jumps up on the bench. Boy, oh boy, that crab came out of nowhere. Zach spotted it, and it snapped at his leg. Oh boy, I don't know if I like that crab at all. They were having a good time, and that crab snapped. Do you think that crab would hurt you if it got you, if it snapped you? Think about that. Here they are. Look at the illustration. Look at how the family looks right now. All right, here we go. The bad crab snaps at Dad. Dad lifts up his leg. The bad crab snaps at Mom. Mom kicks sand at the crab. The bad crab runs off. Oop, think they scared him off. And jumps up and yells at the kids on the next bench, "Bad crab on the sand! Pass the word!" There it is right there. Pass the word. So they're telling everyone down the beach, watch out, there's a bad crab on the sand. Also, there's the tricky word right there. So they're passing the word about the bad crab. There he is. There's the bad crab. The kids on the next bench spot the crab and jump up. The bad crab snaps at them. Then it runs past them. When it's past them, the kids yell, "Bad crab on the sand! Pass the word!" That crab's going after another family, so they're yelling down the beach, "Bad crab, pass the word!" And that family did just that. Check it out. The tricky word when, and there's the tricky word right there. There's word, and when. Boy, that crab was bad. And that is the end of our story on the bad crab today. Remember, the bad crab, our three words were spot, to see. They spotted that crab walking up the beach, snap in an angry way. Obviously, the crab was snapping his claws. And pass the word. We saw two examples of pass the word as the families yelled and warned other people down the beach that the bad crab was on his way. They let people know, hey, watch out for that bad crab. So they probably didn't want anyone to get snapped up. All right? Think about the setting. Where did that story take place? Think about the illustrations that I showed you, the pictures, where they were. Where would you find a crab? Would you find a crab at your local park? Would you find a crab in your classroom? Think about where crabs live and where you might see them, especially during the summertime. Think about that today. All right? Also, think about the characters. Think about who was in the story. Yep, think about that. All right? So that brings me to our comprehension questions, or our discussion questions right here. All right? Number 1. What is the story, or I should say, where is the story taking place? What is the setting? You should be able to know that. Where did the story take place? Think about that. Question number 2. Who are the characters? Who are the main characters in the story? There's 5 of them. There's 5 main characters. I gave you that hint. Think about it. Think about there's 2 kids, 2 parents, and someone else in there. 5 characters. And number 3. Why does the family want to avoid the crab? Why do they want to stay away from that crab? Think about that. So what I'd like you to do is in the comment section below, answer my 3 questions. Number 1, what is the setting? Where did the story take place? Tell me where that setting was. Number 2, who are the main characters? There's 5 people we talked about that were in this story. And number 3, why do you think the family wanted to stay away from that crab? Answer those questions. Drop those comments below. Those would be outstanding. And then just to sum it all up today, we did a great job. Our objectives were very, very simple today. We got introduced to 2 new words, 2 new tricky words. We saw to and why. Those were our tricky words for today. You guys were asked to write down 7 tricky words that I showed you earlier. Let me see if I have my board right here. Here it is right here. I asked you guys to write these down one time for me. When, word, to, why, one, from, and was. All right. And like I said, we reviewed parts of our book, front of the book, back of the book, spine, table of contents, author, illustrator, all those good things. We know that. And then the last one that I want you to do, retell. After you listen to the story, be able to tell your mom and dad what happened in this story without having to read the whole thing. Tell them what happened, and also tell them an event. What was an event that made this story kind of go? Think about it, and I'll give you a little hint with that one. Think about something the crab did. All right, Zach and Ann, that's our new book. I'm happy that I have this in my hands. It'll be a lot easier teaching you guys. So remember, you have 2 things to complete for me today. Write those tricky words one time on a piece of paper if you can. And number 2, answer the 3 discussion questions that I listed earlier. Drop those in the comment section below, and I will see you guys soon. Thank you.